I don't know if I can save your life this time.
Hello and welcome back! I know it's been a while. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the 60th anniversary special, The Giggle, written by Russell T Davies and is directed by Chunya Button. As you see, I've printed out a DVD cover which is by Matthew Purchase, also known as Cyber Devil on the internet, I believe. I've printed out a lot of his covers. And this is his one for The Giggle, which I've put up. This is one of the trilogy, this is the last of a trilogy of stories celebrating the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, which featured the return of David Tennant as now the 14th incarnation of the Doctor, as well as Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. This story also features the return of the Celestial Toymaker, last seen on TV in the story The Celestial Toymaker back in 1966, then played by Michael Gough, now played by Neil Patrick Harris, very famous American actor, as well as Kate the Lethbridge Stewart, also makes a return here from the past 10 years of Doctor Who. I believe her first appearance was The Power of Three in terms of the televised stories. She did actually first appear in a straight-to-video movie, Downtime. For those of you that might not know that, I have covered all of these stories mentioned in the marathon series. Also for the Celestial Toymaker, for us personally, in our headcanon, as this is the marathon series. We did last time we met the Celestial Toymaker was in the 6th Doctor audio adventure, The Nightmare Fair, which was an adaptation of the unmade televised story of the same name. This would feature the regeneration of the 14th Doctor into the 15th Doctor, although those lines do get a bit murky here. But we'll touch on that when we get there. So, what to say about this story? I don't want to just go into beat to beat like I usually do, mainly because I find those videos kind of boring, if I'm going to be honest. The 60th anniversary specials are a very odd one to do, because they brought back David Tennant, with this story being the finale of the trilogy, as well as Catherine Tate. You do have to kind of now justify it, be like, okay, why you brought these characters back? Was it necessary? And of course, you know, what thematically does it do? And has to wrap up the story, which started in the Star Beasts, the televised Star Beast, not the comic book one featuring the 4th Doctor. Yeah, it gets really complicated and confusing. What to say? It's okay, right. I'm gonna put the DVD down because it makes a lot of noise. So what to actually say about this story? Okay, let's get into the exciting incident. This story picks up from the ending of the finale of Wild Blue Yonder, in which Earth seems to be under some sort of curse, where everybody is seemingly attacking each other. It is important to note as well that the last story ended with the return of Bernard Crimmins' character Wilfred Mott. However, sadly, he passed away before the filming of the story, so a few seconds have a body double, where they just basically explain, it's like, right, let's get him to safety, and the character survives off screen through the majority of the adventure. But I digress. There is a curse, essentially, in which everybody on planet Earth thinks they're right, with the exception of the people at UNIT who have found a technology. I can't remember what it's called, but they do have a cool robot that has designed these armbands, which basically prevents this kind of curse from happening. Something is infecting the human race with this sort of disease, shall we say, where everybody thinks they're right, where the whole world's just going mad, and at one point the doctor tries to stop a man from just jumping on the road, and he proclaims that he pays for the road with his taxes, and therefore the road is his, and he gets to decide on whether who goes and drives on the road or not. And basically everybody in the world thinks like this. There's also a scene later on where we get to see news footage where we see the return of Tristan Wells, a character that has appeared in the Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who prior as one of the news anchors. She had a nice cameo here in which she said, "Don't trust these armbands, they're evil." As well as we see in the Prime Minister saying, "I don't care about all of you lot," and a plane driver basically just like crashing in the middle of London. So basically the whole world is erupting into chaos, and the starting of this, I'm going to stress, the starting of this story feels very Russell T Davies, because this is an aspect where what Russell T Davies loves to do is like talk about media, like how like the world works, and it gets a lot of his influences and stories from like the news. Just see like how many stories of his feature prime ministers, like Harold Saxon, the Master, and Harriet Jones. You know, he loves that kind of like politicalness into his stories. And this is no exception for the start of the story, because this is actually a really great idea for a Russell T Davies story, because we now live in a world where everybody's commenting, trying to prove themselves right, and the internet, because it's so large and so vast, will give a community to any sort of opinion, even when they're objectively wrong. And this seems like it was going to be a commentary on that. As the story progresses, they find out that this is all working from a signal, a Harpedrio. We'll get into why this was discovered later on. And the Doctor tracks it down to 1925's Soho, the invention of the television, which, by the way, this story also connects with Russell T Davies's ITV series Nolly, because we have John Yogi Bear, the inventor of the television. The actor that plays John Yogi Bear also plays the same person in Nolly. So basically, this is a Russell T Davies cinematic universe. So that's a fun little fun little Easter egg, shall we say, for Russell T Davies fans. And the Doctor travels back to 1925 to try to discover who's doing this and why. Now, the problem with this main aspect, it's a huge part at the start. It's the inciting incident. It's what the characters need to stop. There's a really great scene as well where Kate takes off the band to show the Doctor what happens to people who do take off the bands, and she gets really like xenophobic. She shouts at the Doctor for being an alien shapeshifter and working with a bunch of redheads. Is it a conspiracy? Possibly. As well as shouting at a scientific advisor. Sure, I can't remember her name now. She didn't get a lot to do in the story. It's very sad, especially since she had such a prominent role in Star Beast. She shouts at her saying that she saw her get up from her wheelchair, and starts like shouting. It's like, "Don't deny it, admit it!" Before putting the band on, and she kind of realizes, and the actors, especially Gemma Redgrave in that scene, are absolutely nailing these performances. and really getting this idea of this world where everybody thinks they're right is affecting. Everybody's just getting harmed and destroyed by it, maybe socially or maybe like physically, getting ran over on the streets and getting attacked. But oddly enough, the story doesn't do anything with it. After the Doctor goes to Soho, like the people getting attacked in the streets, we never see that again in the story. It gets alluded to. The Doctor at one point does mention that, does have this speech where it's like, this is all hidden in humanness. Like, don't think that you are in the clear yet. This signal might be letting people unleash this anger, but that is still very much human. That scene sucks because the Doctor gets really aggressive, seemingly out of nothing, and nobody puts up. It's like, what if this is affecting the Doctor? It just the Doctor just starts shouting at people, and there's no real resolution, no really verdict. The Doctor just basically goes, "You're all horrible people, really." Anyway, and that's what happens with the rest of the story. They basically set this all up. This is the main factor, the main plot point of the story. Anyway, and it was really gutting to see, because halfway through you're like, is everybody still killing themselves, destroying? It did mention at one point that the part of the signal is a satellite that basically brings the internet around the world, and this satellite is from Korea. I think they say South Korea. It could be North Korea, and destroying it would have international implications. And the Doctor basically gives them permission, and they destroy it at one point, and then the Doctor comes back and it's like, that was only a part of the plan. Did destroying that satellite stop the signal? Did everybody queue after that? Or because it was all a part of it, because it was a part of the plan, did it do anything? No idea. But this year then we get introduced to the main villain of the story, the Celestial Toymaker. As I previously mentioned, he first appeared in the Celestial Toymaker back in the 1960s with William Hartnell as the first Doctor. It's also funny to note, I say funny, but this story completely neglects any other story from expanded media. Something which, when Chris Chibnall did it in The Haunting of Ala Diodati, in which it was the first establishment of the Doctor and Mary Shelley meeting, people lost their minds saying it was erasing Big Finish. It was erasing those 8th Doctor stories where he met her. And Russell T Davies is doing the exact same thing. He did it in the Star Beast as well, because that was the first meeting of the Doctor and Beat the Meat. And now here the Toymaker basically, I don't know if it's confirmed, but they do say they've only had one game. Obviously it's the trilogic game from the Celestial Toymaker. And the fan base just seems to or at least the opinionated fans just seems to kind of forget that. I just find that really strange, personally, but I digress. This version of the Toymaker is played by Neil Patrick Harris, a very famous actor, multi-talented. He can dance, he can sing. He's very great at playing villains, and here is no exception. He's so good here. Just makes you wish you had a better story. The one big aspect of his character here is that he puts on a very thick, very cartoonish German accent, which could be a reference to the fact that in the original Celestial Toymaker, he took on the form of a Mandarin, but a white man dressed up like a Chinese Mandarin. so like this character's trying to play race. I personally thought that was really interesting. I think in terms of people's opinion, that could be here and there, and could be considered a bit risky. But I personally think it really worked here. And he's the villain. His view on race isn't supposed to be the good one. The Doctor is our hero. So yeah, there are a lot of great scenes with the toy maker. There's a great moment where he introduces the Doctor and Donna to a puppet show in which he basically explains to Donna what happened to the companions after she left at the end of Journey's End. And we get this really cool moment where we get references to the Flux, we get references to Bill, Clara, Amy Pond, and we get the classic meme of, well, that's all right then, as the Doctor tries to proclaim. But that scene doesn't go anywhere. Okay, the setup is this. He's basically trying to show Donna what happened to try and push our characters in an emotionally vulnerable state. Basically saying that the Doctor essentially had his companions killed. His life is very dangerous. You don't want to be around this person. He basically, maybe not intentionally, but he did destroy half the universe. And all Donna says at this point is this all true? And the Doctor just kind of ignores her. And it's like, I'm going to challenge you to a game. Really cool scene. There's so many moments where there's just cool scenes that don't really go anywhere. I'm almost expecting every time, a screensaver comes up and you have Peter Capaldi going, don't forget to click and subscribe to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel. It kind of feels like that, where these incidents kind of feel like they were made to be seen on YouTube later. Another great example is actually the return of classic 6th and 7th Doctor companion Melody Bush, played by Bonnie Landford. Now, this is where it kind of gets a bit thing with me, because Bonnie Landford's Mel is a companion I didn't like in the classic series, but she also, as well, was my last classic companion growing up as a kid. So I do have a special connection, a sort of connection to her character. She was my last companion for a long while growing up. And to see her back in the show is so cool, especially now that, Bonnie Landford is a massive, massive theatre name in the industry. She does, Broadway. She's in New York all the time. At the time of recording this, she's actually performing Les Mis. So that's really cool. And to see her back is really cool. But not in this story. The Doctor gets randomly, bumps into her. I say randomly, obviously, Kate Stewart knew, she was his connection with the Doctor, and yada-da-da-da. But in terms of, the mood of the story, the Doctor just kind of, it's Mel! Anyway, back to work. But we do get a scene later on where they have a nice catch-up, and the scene is, 2 minutes long, where she basically explains, what happened to her after the end of Dragonfire, her final classic story. Oh yeah, she also appeared in Power of the Doctor as well. I just remembered she has a cameo in that. That's so cool. But she brings her up. She's in a semi-prominent role, and it's just so good because she does nothing. She does the arpeggio, obviously using Bonnie Landford singing to the show's advantage, and then she holds the box. To describe how disappointed I was at this, imagine school reunion, the return of Sarah Jane, meeting the Doctor after all this time and having this very unique aspect, a very unique character meeting up, and it's, you know, you could build an entire story about this relationship. Haven't seen these characters for a while. Imagine school reunion was just a scene in another story. That, like, the Doctor just meets up with Sarah Jane, say, in the end of time. Like, that's the first time they meet up, and then, like, it's just a scene, and then, like, Elizabeth Sladen's just there, like, for the rest of the, just hanging about in the far ground. Imagine that. That's what they did to poor Bonnie Langford. And of course, they're setting her up because she's, she seems to be a mainstay now in the series, appearing in series 14 with the new Doctor. But it's so weird. It's just, it was really disappointing to see. It's really disappointing to see. Let's also get into the concept of the Doctor's character here, because halfway through the story, in fact, it's when the Doctor and Donna land in Soho, where Donna mentions that she notices the Doctor is tired. The Doctor's kind of like wearing himself out. This starts breaking the story for me. This is supposed to be a huge emotional aspect which ties up the 14th Doctor's story arc. It gets introduced halfway through his final story. Also, David Tennant does not play it tired at all. Throughout the story and throughout most of the story, he's running around, he's giggling, he's saying... Remember that scene where he sees the TARDIS, the new TARDIS for the first time, and he's running around, he's legging it. Oh, it's changed! Like, yeah, no! Where did you get that from, Donna? Where did you get that from? It just does not emotionally connect with the character. This all leads up to, I say all leads up to, it's like literally like a scene or two. There's a bit where the Doctor's just like, kind of like feels randomly, just as it's like, why? What do I say, Donna? What do I say? Because I know, I'm always causing the trouble. It's just, the fact it comes halfway through the story just, yeah, but that's supposed to be the emotional hook at the end of the story. Because essentially, what happens then is the Toymaker comes into 2023, the setting of the modern day story here, and he challenges the Doctor to a game. However, because he won the second game and the Doctor won the first game back in the 1960s, televised wise, a rule of three of a game, you know, best of three, 1-1-1, 1-1-1. So now it's a thing to try and get who will win the majority for the rule of... It does not really establish like, what they actually win. Like, the Toymaker at one point is just like, and now I will see my prize. What prize? What do you get from this? What is the... Like, what do you get from all this? Like, physically. I don't know. But anyway... he proclaims essentially, you know, he fought one Doctor, he's fighting this Doctor, so the last game should be fought by the next Doctor, and he shoots the Doctor with the laser that they use to shoot the satellite down, and the Doctor starts regenerating, and then something happens. The regeneration energy starts slithering away. Oh yeah, Bonnie Langford also pulls the Doctor's arm at one point. So they pull, and out from David Tennant's 14th Doctor, we have the new incarnation of the Doctor, the 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, in a very controversial decision to introduce the concept of bi-regeneration, in which, instead of the Doctor going from one body to another, the Doctor kind of splits into two, one keeping the old body and one having the newly body. So the 15th Doctor is a side of the 14th Doctor, sort of. And then they play a game of catch to determine what happens to the, to the world, to who wins the concept of the game. Then the Doctor, the 14th Doctor, the David Tennant incarnation, kind of goes a bit quiet, and the other characters, Donna and the 15th Doctor, are like, you're getting tired, you need to rest, you need to stop in this thing, but not before, after establishing that the rules of play that the Toymaker brought in is still around. The 15th Doctor basically shoots the TARDIS into two, so that the 14th Doctor can also still have his TARDIS. And it's also established in a later scene that he still does travelling. So the Doctor needs to take a rest from travelling and travels. This aspect of the bi-regeneration is a concept which was leaked a few months prior to the release of the 60th anniversary specials. I absolutely hated it. This is a concept which it just does not work. Okay, let's bring up the fact that this is happening to David Tennant specifically. If you go by the internet, he is everybody's favourite Doctor. And the controversial decision to have his last version of the Doctor, his last words be, "I don't want to go," means that in 2010, it was very difficult for Matt Smith to establish himself with pre-consistent Doctor Who fans at the time. Obviously, that's the whole thing has been forgotten about now, thankfully, because that was an entirely stupid thing. But the creative decisions there was that David Tennant's the best. He is the main best one of all the Doctors. And obviously, you couldn't do that whilst trying to introduce a new Doctor. So I imagine that's why this bi-regen is to keep fans of the 14th Doctor, have him around, sort of, so that if people didn't like the 15th Doctor, you can have the 14th back. That's so stupid. It's so stupid. Like, it's hard to describe, but there is a sort of elegance to the way where a Doctor dies, the previous actor bows out, he says his farewell, and then the new Doctor can start and have an entire, collection of stories dedicated to their incarnation, with the exception of multi-Doctor stories, which are obviously for celebration's sakes. But to have this kind of net over the Ncuti Gatwa's era, it's so unfair for him, because now everybody's just expecting, when's David Tennant going to come back? And leaving him also with his TARDIS on modern day Earth, it's so stupid. It also means that the story has a really awkward pace at the end, where in most stories the regeneration happens right at the very end, and it's obviously one from another. So you get the main Doctor at the time bowing his farewells, having a very romanticized version of themselves, bowing down, farewell, so you can look at their collection of stories as one complete set, as the new Doctor takes over and can start their first story as an introduction to them, as where people can jump onto. But here, now, Ncuti Gatwa is kind of like in the background, waiting for his time to shine, as the 14th Doctor is wrapping up his story arc. It's so awkward now, looking back in rewatches, Because you're either a fan watching a story for the 14th Doctor in which his ending is kind of just half there, whilst the 15th Doctor's just like in the corner waiting, as well as just like it's so poorly handled. Because like the Doctor himself never says he's tired, never like says like I need a rest or anything. And of course, as I've stated, he doesn't really play, David Tennant never really plays it tired for the most part, but with the exception of like a handful of scenes where it's relevant. Like he's jumping, like the final showdown with the game of catch, he's jumping around, legging around, sprinting, jumping. He's so clearly active and in full energy, full swing. It's so against his character as supposedly being. It's also here that it's described essentially why David Tennant returned. Essentially, the Doctor subconsciously realizes he was getting tired, regenerated back into an incarnation that an old friend would recognize, and then found Donna. So he did all of this subconsciously. So he subconsciously regenerated his clothes. It's such a slap to the face, and this would sadly become a trend for Russell T Davies' new era of poorly thought out story arcs. And also, this is the self-proclaimed the guy that hates the mystery box story arcs. So this already was annoying me, but it's so poorly handled here. And then you've got the other side where you want people rewatching this because of the 15th Doctor's first appearance. Because in his next story, you know, it's not an actual introduction. He's already established himself at the end of this story. But you've got to wait up to that point. And prior to that, you've got all of the story setting up this storyline, setting up these arcs of the world in chaos, and the media outlets, and the toy maker using this to advance into people's like mindsets of being right all the time. And then that just kind of gets dropped because bi-regeneration is now a thing. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's a concept. I must state that I do know a lot of Doctor Who fans do, and I know some. Most people I say that I know don't like it, but I know some that do like it. If you love it, that's fine. But I gotta be honest, I strongly disagree. The bi-regeneration, like, not only in concept, I don't like, but how it was portrayed here, everything went wrong. Nothing went right. It did a massive disservice to David Tennant coming back after so long. I believe it was 15 years. 2010. 2019, 2009 was when he left, technically in 2010, 2023. So that's 13 years ago. Is my maths right on it? No, hold on. Yeah, 13 years ago, he left the role to come back for these 3 specials, only to have a really disappointing finale. It's such a disservice to Ncuti Gatwa, who had his moment to shine. Like, you know, this was his introduction. This was his time to shine and to show people, like, this is what I've got. But because of the way it stagnates, the way that he comes in just in the final act, and David Tennant's still there, it's so awkwardly. Like, watch any interview with him after the airing of this episode. It's just a bunch of people asking him, is David Tennant still there? Is David Tennant going to come back? David Tennant. It's so sad to see the new Doctor have to basically prove himself again in interviews, like logistically wise, that he is the Doctor. And also the fact that there's now 2 doctors walking around, it means that Ncuti Gatwa is half a doctor per se. Like, he's not a full doctor of sorts. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. This story's a massive disservice to Donna and Catherine Tate. They brought back Donna Noble, one of the most beloved companions, a lot of people's favourite, one of my favourite. I wouldn't say she's my favourite, but she is definitely up there as one of my favourites. They retconned her such a great ending at the end of Journey's End, that sad moment where the Doctor had to erase her memory. They brought her back for the Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and this. Why? Like, story-wise, like narratively, in terms of like emotions, or like what Russell T Davies has to say about like the state of the world or our character developments. Why was Donna brought back? It's so frustrating. It's a massive disservice to Bonnie Lanford. This is a massive disservice to Chanya Button. I've probably mispronounced her name. Chanya Button. I do apologise if I'm mispronouncing that. Massive disservice to her, because this story looks so good. The fact that this story jumps from 2023 to 1925, and the story juggles a lot of elements. There's a bit where the Toymaker's dancing around. There's a bit where Donna is fighting really creepy dolls as they start doing this like really creepy rhyme towards her. And there's this strange corridor scene, and there's the theatrical scene with the Toymaker is doing the puppet show. The unit base, in modern time, the grungy look of the streets at the start of the story. And to have that all feel cohesive? I can't do words today. You know the word I'm trying to say. To have all of it feel like it is one story, like it is actually like structured like that. Massive props to her. What a great director. Just wish she had a better script to work with. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. This is probably one of my least favourite Doctor Who stories I've seen, if I'm going to be honest. So much was betting on the story, and pretty much everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Actors are doing their best, directors doing her best. Just Russell T Davies sadly let them down. Also, as well, before I end this, there is a lot of callbacks. The bi-regeneration feels a lot like the Meta Crisis Doctor from Stolen Earth: The Journey's End. There's a bit where the Master gets turned into a teeth and somebody picks it up, just like at the ending of Last of the Time Lords and The Sound of Drums. There's so much that stories, that bits that feel like they're just rehashing. Also, as well, set up Master Teeth Hand thing. The Toymaker at one point says, "My legions are coming." Massive disservice to Neil Patrick Harris as well. The man had a dance routine. The man can sing. The man had a dance routine to one of the Spice Girls, and they made him lip sync it. Although he probably easily gave the best performance here, and does salvage this story in terms of a rewatch. Like, I come back being excited to see him perform the Toymaker again. He has a very good performance here. But yeah, the Giggle, seemingly in every department, is actually regular. It's really well handled, but the script was so bad. The story, anyway, maybe not like per se dialogue, but the story, the narrative. I honestly can't think of other story that failed so bad. in the entirety of doing this marathon that is as worse as the Giggle. And that's saying something. I've seen Love and Monsters. I've seen Delta and the Bannerman. This is worse than them. Like, in terms of story, by like a mile. Just watch it for me. Just go on Google, type in YouTube. Sorry, go on YouTube, look up like the best scenes, and I can't even recommend like watching this or rewatching it. So anyway, that's the Giggle. That's the rant over. This is the reason this video took so long, because I really didn't want to rewatch this again to try and. This video is a complete and utter mess. This video is crap. Don't watch this video. This video is worse than the Giggle. Like, this marathon video is worse than the Giggle. Oh no, oh god. Can you imagine making something that bad? But anyway, that's the Giggle. So join me next time where Shukigatwa, this new 15th Doctor, finally gets like a story to himself as we get introduced to new companions and we start fighting goblins and we have babies. So join me next time for The Church on Ruby Road. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.